to Women's Voice. My name is Alexandra Perry and I'll be your host.
The difference between a good opportunity and
Yeah.
the right opportunity for you, or
Yeah.
a good idea
Yeah.
and the right idea for you.
Yeah.
So for example, we could be exactly the same, would have exactly the same idea,
Yeah.
but it's not necessarily the best idea for me to execute. So I think when it comes to ideas, it's about execution. Anyone can have ideas. Ideas
Yeah.
are cheap.
And this season is all about women in technology. And I'm sitting here with Eunice Baguma, who is the founder of Africa Technology Business Network. Now, I first met Eunice at Oxford Africa Conference, and I absolutely enjoyed your pitch. And I really wanted to speak to you more about everything you're doing, especially with Her Future Africa. And this interview, I'm hoping that others will be as inspired as I was listening to you. And that's why I wanted to have Eunice on this series, honestly, guys. And you'll be able to learn more about how you guys can get involved in the work that she's doing, all the projects, exciting projects that she has upcoming. What do you do?
So first of all, thank you so much for having me. I watched the first episode of Women's Voice.
Thank you.
It was amazing. Sort of, creating this platform to amplify the voices of women and everything they're doing to empower women. So very excited to be here.
I'm so excited to have you here.
So what do? I run an organization called the Africa Technology Business Network.
Okay.
This is an organization I started working on about 2 years ago, and
Yeah.
really I had just moved to London, and I'm really passionate about technology. I think that technology is really a powerful tool right now to drive development in Africa.
Yeah.
I was working in the sort of financial services technology sector, and I was seeing how a simple tool like a mobile phone was giving people access to banking services, to information where they could access healthcare, and so I became really passionate about technology. I think it's all about technology is providing a tool for Africans to create their own solutions, and I think from the historical point of view of so many people want to solve Africa's problems for it.
Course,
I think that technology has come up as this thing that entrepreneurs are sort of taking up and saying, I see a problem, I can use technology to solve it. And so ATBN is really about supporting that to happen, to support local innovation, support local entrepreneurs by providing a link to investment, partnerships, mentorship here in the UK. And I'm very particularly passionate about women and women sort of becoming part of this story. I think that a lot of the challenges that are faced on the continent affect women, the most many times. So whether that is you're seeing, lack of access to education, healthcare, and all these things, I think that, women get impacted the most in these challenges. And also I feel really means that we understand the challenges more. And I think also there's a statistic that shows that when you economically empower a woman, it has 10 times the impact on the community because they invest 90% back into their families. So sort of merging that with the power of technology for me is what I'm passionate about.
So Eunice, what made you get into technology?
So I got into technology because I think technology is a really powerful tool for creating solutions. And I think that particularly technology in Africa is creating this platform that is allowing Africans to create their own solutions. So I feel like technology is this great equalizer. If you can develop it, say an app in the UK, you can use the same sort of technology to create it in Africa. It's just this sort of great equalizer, and it's one of those things as young people in Africa that is something that is accessible. So there's a lot of young people online using social media, using technology, and it's one of those things where you don't necessarily have to wait for the government or specific things. You can kind of take it up and use it. And I was really inspired by seeing how entrepreneurs in Uganda, where I'm from, where we're starting to use technology to sort of address challenges that we're seeing and we're getting frustrated with. So.
Eunice, so I love how you are the founder of ATBN. You are a woman actually running such an organization that has a big impact on young women. all over the world. And I want to find out, how did your career start?
So interesting story is I actually studied engineering, mechanical engineering specifically, and I was working at a hydropower station in Uganda, and I think one of the things that that drove me to leave and sort of get into more sort of the tech space, I would say, is the fact that I'm more from a creative side.
Can I ask you a question there, Eunice?
Sure.
A lot of women usually shy away from subjects like engineering, maths, etc. So how did you, especially because you studied this in Africa, right? How did you get into that as a young lady?
So it was, I think there was a lot of encouragement around doing for women, girls to get into like the maths, physics, to the sciences. So for example, in Uganda, the government has a system where you are, supported, you get, sort of extra points, you're supported to get into like sciences and engineering subjects. But also it was really determined by, a lot of it was determined by your performance. So if you did well in maths and sciences, it was like, immediately assumed you got into engineering. And then if you did, if you did really well at the arts and not so well at the sciences, then you got to go into. So it wasn't very much like you have this career ambition and then you decide your point. It was very much like the points decided the career, which is where I think I found myself with a mismatch because I was working in an environment where it was very much about following like a structure and maintaining things, keeping things running a very specific way. And I'm the kind of person where I want to solve a new problem, I want to create a new solution. And I found that mismatch. So I kind of shifted into sort of the IT area where I saw that you could actually use the tool, you could use technology and actually create something new. You could see a challenge and you could build the system, and there was always that problem solving aspect to it that I really loved. So I started out in my career, I did all my schooling in Uganda, started my career there. And that's when I also did a small startup that I had. And not to go into the details of what it did exactly, but one of our biggest challenges at the time was receiving payments. So for a lot of people that probably have tried to do businesses in Uganda, or in many parts of Africa, it's difficult to receive international payments. It's still one of the highest rates to actually send money to Africa, and actually if you're doing business to receive, it costs a lot of money. And we were trying to through this business, we needed to receive payments from different clients around the world. And that was our biggest challenge at the time. We were trying to use PayPal, it didn't necessarily work. And I remember there was something about that experience that made me realize, and this is something that I'd never really realized, that I'd never seen myself as from a really small country or really insignificant place. So in my mind, like Uganda was my whole world. That done all my schooling there, I'd grown up there. I felt I was online, I was setting up a tech business, I was trying to use PayPal. It never ever in my mind felt like, I was from this really small town. I didn't really have. I think there was something around that experience that really just made me realize, oh my God, I'm so small, and it just made me feel like where I was from was really small as well. And I just had this desire to sort of go out and see the world, and kind of, as I say, like see this world where I think their PayPal works. Why doesn't it work in my country? And that kind of drove me to go to do my master's. So I went to do my master's in Italy for 2 years, and I did a master's in engineering management. So I was kind of trying to move to get more into like the management space, off the back of my engineering degree. And that was a really, really interesting experience for me. It was the first time I'd left Uganda, so I think I was about 26 years old then. And I always said never been on a plane. Literally, it was like the first time leaving Africa. I'd obviously traveled around East Africa, but I hadn't left Africa before. And going into this environment was the first time I was ever a minority, ever in my life. Like literally landing at the airport, and it's just like. I don't know if there's people that have experienced that, but when you have grown to adulthood, never having experienced, it's quite a different. And I had worked with lots of foreign companies. I worked for an American company in the States, so I had been, quite exposed. And, but I had never been.
Nothing prepared you for that moment.
Exactly. And then you go into, and I think, specifically Italy, because there's a lot of, I guess, the immigration issues.
Yeah.
And, there is, I guess, a certain perception of Africa and Africans. Italy is, I think, also quite a closed country because of language as well. So that was where I kind of had my first, I would say, racist experiences, which really helped me grow. I feel like they were absolutely necessary for me to sort of develop my character to a point and sort of understand who I was better. But also, I always say, it helped me discover my African identity, first of all. Because before growing up in Uganda, I never ever considered myself African. You're Ugandan, you're your parents' daughter, or you're from your tribe. But when you're growing up in Africa, you don't really ever refer to yourself as African. It's you're from your country. At most, you're Ugandan. So I think that's where, again, it planted that seed on that passion for just Africa generally as a continent. I think I met, in my experience in Italy, I met a huge international, a community of students from across different African countries. And, just learning about Nigerian food and Ghanaian food and all these different cultures. And I had a friend from Zambia. I'd never had that many friends from different African countries. It was really exciting for me to see how similar we were in certain aspects. And I think that's what, again, that planted that seed around doing something that sort of impacts Africa in general. And then from Italy, then sort of going back to Uganda, working a little bit again in the technology space, to moving to London with my husband. But I think along that journey was, the falling in love with technology, discovering my African identity and sort of getting that passion for Africa. And I think now, the organization I run is combining those two.
Of course. A lot of young women always get a lot of different opportunities. The problem that I am seeing now is that there's not a lack of opportunities, but choosing the right opportunities that will help you actually achieve your goals. So, Eunice, what opportunities did you seek in order to be successful?
That's a really good question. And I remember one of the best pieces of advice I've received, because I've always known I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And I used to have so many ideas. I literally have a folder that I keep that has over 50 business ideas, different business ideas. And I remember asking somebody, how do you know which one is the right one? They all look like good ideas. They all look like there's definitely a gap, there's definitely an opportunity. So which one do you pursue? And I cannot remember who exactly it was, but they said there is a difference between a good opportunity and the right opportunity for you, or a good idea and the right idea for you. So for example, we could be exactly the same, would have exactly the same idea, but it's not necessarily the best idea for me to execute. So I think when it comes to ideas, it's about execution. Anyone can have ideas. Ideas are cheap, right? It's how can you execute it, and you need to find the opportunities or the ideas that play on your strengths, that play on your unique advantage. So, there's one of the things I really wanted to do was, let's say I wanted to do something in the UK. I was new to the UK, right? My competitive advantage was the fact that I knew Africa. I knew I had friends and connections across different African countries, and I knew that technology sector because I'd worked there for 7 years. So I had the option of coming in and kind of saying, oh, I'm trying to compete in the UK market as somebody here, and trying to compete with people that are, say, born here or have had careers here, and sort of trying to go for the same opportunities, but they have an advantage over me because they probably have they have a network already in the corporate world. So I think it's really identifying what are your strengths, what's the unique thing you bring to the table. And I think sometimes you underestimate what those things might be. So for example, for me, for a long time, I thought the fact that I was African, the fact that I was all these things, or let's say female, I thought there were disadvantages, but actually that's what makes you unique, that's what makes you stand out. So it's about how do you turn those into your competitive advantage. So whether it is a business idea you want to go through, don't underestimate all those things, because all of our journeys are unique. I think my best advice for finding the right opportunities is bring all of yourself. So don't underestimate, even if you're a lawyer but you love fashion, but you're also really passionate about food, no one else has that same combination of things. So whatever it is you're going to pursue, bring your full self. Like don't try and leave parts of yourself to the door, at the door, and say, oh no, I now need to be X, you know, let me compete on, X. Like bring those things, and they will make you stand out.
So be yourself
and find your strength and pursue opportunities that build on your strength.
I love that.